Not everyone is Darkstar.
Sometimes we're Edric Dane.
Yeah. I'm a Darkstar in the streets and an Edric in the sheets. That's what I like to say. No, wait.
What?
Wow.
No!
Welcome to Maester Monthly, your favorite pseudo-monthly podcast hosted by the moderators of the Song of Ice and Fire subreddit. This podcast is spoilers extended, which means we may talk about information from the Winds of Winter sample chapters and from every episode of the Game of Thrones TV show. You have been warned. My name is Michael, also known as Bookshelfstud.
And my name is Eliana, also known as Glass Table Girl.
My name is Aaron, also known as AdmiralKird. And joining us today is special guest, our extraordinaire of best dubs, the Wonder Woman herself, Jen Snow.
That was a lovely introduction, Aaron. Thank you. I'm Jen, also known as Jen Snow, and I'm glad to be back.
We are glad to have you back, Jen. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Eliana. Glad to be here.
Today on Maester Monthly, we are going to talk about the Best of 2017 awards for the subreddit. We'll go through the winners in each category. We'll talk a little bit about them. And Jen is here to help us with that because she is the mastermind behind the Best of awards. And without her, it probably wouldn't happen. But we'll talk about that.
It definitely wouldn't be as organized.
It definitely would not be as organized.
We'd be like, oh shit. Remember these things, guys?
Now, before we get into sort of the meat of the podcast, we wanted to highlight some nice feedback we've been getting. Now that we've been doing this for about a year or so, we thought we'd finally start reading the comments.
We've been reading them. Just to clarify, everyone, we've been reading them and internalizing them, and I whisper them in a positive way to myself when I go to sleep, unlike Arya's prayer. You know, like, I'm not saying your names out of a desire to kill you. I'm saying your names because it keeps me warm every night.
Wow. That's a lot more than I do. I personally wanted to give a shout out to in the Reddit comments on the last episode, good friend Triple S Uperstark, who has given me a blessing to pronounce their username that way, which is just a really stupid way to pronounce their name. It's just Super Stark. But thank you, Triple S Super Stark, for for validating me.
I didn't know y'all were good friends already.
Well, I move very quickly.
Yeah.
In the video text, I almost made it actually Triple S Uber Stark, just because it sounded so catchy.
Triple S Super Stark.
It sounds like a wrestler.
Ooh, yeah.
Triple S Uber Stark.
I mean, to bring them back up, I tried to spell out Jim Jibber's name.
Oh, yeah.
Phonetically to thank him, and you're like, did you mean this? Or I'm like, yeah, I did.
Yeah, you called out a user whose username is Jim Jibber. And apparently that is a user. They've just never actually posted anything. So shout out to Jim Jibber. Big ups to you. Not to be confused, of course, with Jim Gibber, who was a very good sport about the confusion.
Yeah. Cool. And I also had a comment that I wanted to call out that was in reaction to some of the stuff we talked about last cast with Melisandre appearing like Ygritte. And so on our YouTube version of the podcast, which if you aren't checking out, definitely check it out, because Aaron does a lot of great work, and there's hilarious images, and like, you know, I do everything for the lulz. So anyway, user Nihil Science, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
Responded with, on the glamours, if people see quote unquote what they want to see, perhaps Fagon wearing rubies may be an indication that John Connington, quote-unquote, sees what he wishes to see when he sees, quote-unquote, Rhaegar's son. And I thought that was a really great thematic tie-in to rubies and desire and those ideas.
Yeah, of seeing what you want to see. Well put, Nils.
Nihil Skins.
Yeah, it's really easy to convince somebody if they constantly look like your idealized version of whatever it is that you want to believe.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's how I got my wife to marry me. You can cut that joke. I couldn't think of a better one. Or keep it. I don't care.
Somebody needs to tell John Con he needs to stop being had. It's too good to be true, man.
It's three good, 3 be true. That's how
3 be true.
3 good it is.
I think 3 be true is the name of a obscure Star Wars robot.
Really?
No, I'm making, sorry.
I'll believe anything.
3 be true. Yeah. I wanted to give one last shout out to one of the Reddit comments who points out that we were talking last time about skin changing, meaning that your head is now on the animal's body. Sort of in a tongue-in-cheek way, if I recall. But someone pointed out, a user pointed out that in Theon's nightmare, after killing the Miller's boys, he is chased by wolves with boys' heads. And this user says that they think that is way more terrifying. And I got to agree. And so shout out to JAAZ, who had this fantastic comment in the thread. I assume it's meant to be pronounced jazz.
The Northern Sphinx.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Speaking of glamour, the Melanie chapter, Eliana was just on Game of Owns talking about the Melisandre Dance with Dragons chapter on Game of Owns.
Yeah.
So was that.
That was really fun. They're a really fun group. If you've never listened to Game of Owns, definitely check them out. They're doing a reread podcast. And right now they're doing A Feast with Dragons. The combined A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons reread. So check that out. And we covered the Melisandre chapter and Sam, I want to say it's Sam 4, the one where Maester Aemon dies.
Aww.
I don't remember the exact number. Yeah, and those chapters don't go up against each other in the way the books are situated now, but there's a lot of really great thematic ties between the two, in this combined reread. So it's that was fun. And also just like Zach and Hannah are super lovely. And yeah, that was Game of Owns episode, I think 395. Also, Zach has an amazing dog.
I mean, that's a reason in and of itself to listen to.
Combined reading orders are heresy.
I think, didn't Jeff help make the reading order for the Feast for Dragons one?
He did.
Which is why it's heresy.
Oh, yeah, it's heresy because Jeff had a hand in it.
But Jeff is George R. R. Martin, so it's like, okay.
That's true. That is true, in fact. That is an actual fact, just so everyone knows.
It's canon. Yeah. You've never seen him in the same room as George R. R. Martin.
The Cautioner's Tale world book.
Yeah. It's a beautifully illustrated coffee table book of the Cautioner's Tale.
With MS Paint drawings and some little scratchings that Jeff has done on notebook paper.
Especially because he loves World of Ice and Fire so much.
Yeah. He's such a big fan of the histories. He loves them.
Yeah.
No, it just had the Cautioner's Tale World Book just has pictures from the world of Ice and Fire. It's like it's
doodled on. Devil horns drawn on people, little mustaches.
And Baltimore. It's just like illustrated, fantastical, like really flowery versions of Baltimore.
Like Baltimore, but Jeff just drew an MS Paint dragon up in the sky or something, like over National Harbor.
Yeah. Pretty much. Or a kraken. Ooh, think about it. Think about it. A kraken in the Baltimore harbor.
I am thinking about it.
They do have ravens.
Yeah, that's true. They do have ravens. The Baltimore Ravens.
Oh my god. It's a sign.
So before we get to the best of awards today, as always, I wanted to ask you guys a question. If you had the ability to skin change into one of the point of view characters in A Song of Ice and Fire at this point in the story, who would it be? So theoretically, you can jump into this person's body, control their brain, make them do whatever they're capable of doing. It's just you have control over them.
I have a question.
Okay.
Do they at the same time get to jump into your real body?
Ooh, that's an important question.
That is a good-
This is important.
I'm going to go with yes. But they can only read the Song of Ice and Fire books while they're in your body. So they can just learn more about their own world, basically.
So they're literally living my life. I mean, that is my life,
Yeah.
Can they read the subreddit?
They can, yes.
Can they mod the subreddit? Are they also moderators?
Yeah, did we give them full mod permission?
They do have full mod permissions.
Or did we remove
them? They have full permissions. Yep.
Very serious business.
Yeah. So whatever point of view character you switch with is now a moderator of the subreddit. It's sort of a Freaky Friday type situation.
How do I use this mouse?
I thought I had someone picked out, but there are a lot of parameters that weren't in the planning document, and though I appreciate this, it's a lot on the fly.
Yeah, it's a lot for me too, actually. I wish I had known these parameters too.
Michael's a real gardener. Here you guys.
I'm a gardener. I'm not an architect. Look, the first rule of improv is yes and. So you asked me if they could switch bodies with me, and it's a yes and situation. But you're allowed to answer the first pure version of the question as well, just for the sake of your own sanity. So maybe it's a two-parter here.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pick Strong Belwas.
The best point of view character.
My favorite point of view.
He's like the most important part. Like, he's even in the show. The entire series is about him.
Uh-huh.
He is the Song of Ice and Fire.
He is.
So,
hold on, I'm gonna think about this a little. I'm gonna think about this, but for now, let's say Strong Belwas. Come back to me.
Okay, Strong Belwas. It's a stand-in. If I had to take over one and switch with them, I would say it might be... Oh boy. I'm going to go for Theon Greyjoy. And... And I say this because he knows a bunch of stuff that if he would just say it out loud and just sort of work with people around him would really change his situation a lot. But for various reasons, he won't be believed or whatever. I feel like as Theon, I could have the opportunity to fix a lot of stuff in the North, helping out Stannis. And I also feel like Theon would really get a kick out of moderating the subreddit. I think he would really enjoy himself, although he doesn't have enough fingers to ban people, which is one of the questions on our mod application, if I remember right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So that's my answer.
I don't think that's weird at all.
Thank you.
I think Theon Greyjoy is a good choice.
I would go with Ariane.
What?
Because...
Okay.
Then he'd have the most responsive nipples.
I thought about saying Ariane Martell, but I didn't for that exact reason.
Everyone thought about... Okay, everyone knows, like, that Ariane's a strategic choice, because you're just like... Anyways, Aaron, why do you...
She's in a fairly safe area. She's going to have a lot of influence coming up. Mm-hmm. Everybody else is kind of semi-screwed / has somebody currently, like, eyeballing him, like Sansa is being eyeballed by Littlefinger. Arya... I don't want to be in Arya's situation. Bran is attached to a tree. Jon is dead. Dany is, like, being captured. Tyrion is still kind of a slave going to battle. Theon is... he's
Theon, yeah.
Davos, I don't want to be in Davos' situation at all.
It's true.
Sam, I think, is a good option.
Sure.
But he doesn't have that responsive of nipples.
So...
What about Victorian? Why not Victorian?
Victorian is another big one, I think, because he's going to battle, but he's fairly safe, I think. Well,
if you were Victorian, then you could make smarter choices than him.
Yes, that's true.
From being burned.
Exactly. Yeah. So what is your answer then? Is it Ariane Martell?
Oh, mine's Ariane.
Okay. All right. Great. Do you think she would be a good moderator? As my follow-up question.
Oh, yeah, I actually think I think she'd ban the wrong people. I think she yeah, I don't know.
She'd probably perma-ban people. Yeah.
Talk about it like it's all about banning.
Yep, that's all we do.
We don't only ban guys.
I think she could get into slap fights, Ariane, though.
Yeah.
I don't think she'd be good at reporting, please don't be rude to fellow crows.
Right, like probably just engage with people too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
From a very, like, princess entitled, like, standpoint.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. I am to be queen of the Seven Kingdoms, so follow rule 1, you son of a gun.
I think I'm going to start invoking things like that when I do mod actions. I'm not sure how I'm going to phrase it just yet, but I think I don't include enough titles in my distinguished comments.
I mean, the comments are distinguished. We should be distinguished in our responses.
This is true.
By our titles.
Should we so are you saying we should have longer signatures, really bringing this back to the old school forum days?
I honestly do wish that we had forum signatures on Reddit. I would love that.
We had little siggies.
Yes. That's what I want to take
and avatars?
Personality quizzes that give me a little, thing to put in my signature on the forum. That's what I want.
Signatures are the worst. Because people always abuse them and they put too many images in them, or they make them too big, or they make them animated and it just gets cluster. Yeah. Eliana, who do you want to be?
Besides Strong Belwis, since he's not actually a point of view character.
He's every character.
I'm every character.
Hota's pretty close to Belwas.
No. No. How could you say that? God.
They have the same occupation.
Being a camera?
No. Strong Belwis is not the camera. Strong Belwis is the star that the camera watches. God.
He is above the line. He is A-list. Yeah.
I've got one if Eliana, you want to think about it some more.
You go. You go. Okay.
So, in the initial parameter, I was going to say I would jump into Sansa's place because I feel like I could guide her better through what's going on in the Vale and what Littlefinger is attempting to do with manipulating her. Mm-hmm. But I don't think she would be a very good moderator of the subreddit.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a shame. But who would be a good moderator of the subreddit? Gerald Darkstar Dane. Because when you picture someone on Reddit, I mean, and in reality, when everyone pictures us, isn't that the kind of person they're picturing? Us hunkered down in our of the night type locations.
Yeah, like ultra serious about everything.
Exactly, exactly.
No, you can't joke about a song of Ice and Fire, actually.
I think Sansa would actually be good at being a moderator.
Do you think now that her skin has turned from porcelain to ivory to steel, she would be good?
Yeah. Well, because, it's not just, she'd be good at putting together events like the best of tournaments.
Oh, that's a good point, Eliana.
And also with the announcements, and also being courteous and guiding people in how to partake in civil discourse.
Oh, she does know her courtesies.
You're so right.
She would recognize someone by their flair alone. She'd be like, yes, I see your flair.
Oh my god. And I name you Triple S Superstar.
You must be this Triple S Superstar.
So I name you.
You're a clever wolf girl, says Triple S Superstar. Sorry, Triple S, if that's not how you speak IRL.
I'm sorry.
I'm just doing your voice that way.
I mean, he probably thinks that we speak, again, like Jen said, like Gerald Dane.
Gerald the Dark Star.
Like Dark Star.
For he is of the night. You know what? I think you made a really strong case for Sansa. I'm going to go with Sansa, although Dark Star, mod of the subreddit.
He's the platonic ideal. Yeah. So, Eliana, it's come down to you.
Okay. So, I've narrowed it down to, I was contemplating Ariane, but then letting her mod the subreddit, I don't know.
Wasn't.
But, the other parts of her life seem pretty decent. Asha Greyjoy was one of my choices.
Mm-hmm.
She's in a difficult position right now, which kind of sucks. It would be great to be there, but yeah, I don't think I'm smarter than Asha. I don't think I could figure things out better than she could. But I think she'd be pretty all right. The other choice, I guess, was Jon Snow for that brief respite of death.
So you just want to hop into Jon Snow's point of view right as he's dying. Just finally.
Just the sweet release.
2018 has been a rough year, hasn't it?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. All right, that's it. But yeah, maybe Asha Greyjoy, I think.
Asha, that's a good. She would be a good mod. She would. Mm-hmm. I think.
She might get into some slap fights, but she could be.
People would love her.
She's adaptable. I see her as adaptable to her situations.
Yeah. So I think that brings us to the annual treat, the Best of Awards for 2017. Now, I mean, before we talk about the specific winners and posts that were runners-up and all that, why don't we talk a little bit about just what the best ofs are and how they work? Because I think people might not understand the sheer amount of work that goes into putting the best ofs together and how much of that Jen does.
The best ofs started 5 years ago. It used to be that the admins would award various subreddits or commenters that they came across, I guess. But then 5 years ago, they changed it so that each subreddit could hold their own awards, and the Reddit admins would give each subreddit gold as a prize. The best ofs are a really great time of year because at the end of every year, I get to look at the greatest things that the subreddit has produced. And every year, multiple times a year, there are people who say that it's been too long and there isn't anything else to talk about with these books and how terrible, things are. And every year I get to look at these and say, clearly that's not true because look at all of this content that we have produced over the last year. The basic process is just that the community chooses the categories that we vote on, and then we nominate potential winners, and then we vote on the winners. It's been great to see what the community wants to recognize every year, and it's also been really fun to see the things that have always and consistently been what the subreddit and community recognize.
Yeah, so what are some of those things that the community consistently recognizes?
There are a couple of categories, or a few categories, that have been selected every year since we started doing this, and things that I think that we're pretty well known for. So, best character analysis, best new theory, shiniest tinfoil, comment of the year, and post of the year.
Like you said, this has been going for 5 years now, right? These specific categories. So I feel like that's quite a while, really. We have a pretty strong tradition at this point.
Absolutely. And there are other things that have come and gone over the years. I think my favorite new award is the one, I can't remember what year it was introduced, but the Alchemist Award, which is the award for the theory that makes you want to light yourself on fire. And it's an honor and kind of not-ish.
I mean, I think we kind of, given that it's been, we're in our 7th year since the Dance with Dragons came out, we kind of need to acknowledge the just sometimes insane depths that the community will go to. And the Alchemist Award, I think, really captures that because, sometimes people they go a little too far in a few places,
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say that some of the theories that end up being Alchemist Awards, I think part of what I like about those is a lot of them tend to have a sort of playful spirit. Some of them are kind of tongue-in-cheek, and I think that it's cool to see that the community can, we're obviously very intense, I am of the night intense, but we can also be very fun.
Yeah, exactly. Not everyone is Darkstar.
Sometimes we're Edric Dane.
Yeah. I'm a Darkstar in the streets and an Edric in the sheets. That's what I like to say. No, wait.
What?
No. Abort.
Wow.
Do you know the Apollo spacecraft had an abort computer as well as a main computer? It actually had two.
Today on
Did
Maester
they
Monthly,
have push to talk?
Aaron recently watched a documentary on the Apollo landings and how they were faked. So I think we should jump into the awards. So we're going to start by talking about the Tier 2 awards. And in this tier, the winner of these categories received 1 month of Reddit Gold and also received the Best of 2017 flair. And later we'll talk about the Tier 1 awards, where the first and second place winners both got a month of Reddit Gold and some sweet flair. The first of the Tier 2 awards is the award we were just talking about, actually, the Alchemist Award, for the theory that most makes you want to set yourself on fire. And this year, the winner of the Alchemist Award was user Dane in a Shed, speaking of Danes, for their post, The Sordid Truth About the Tower of, quote, Joy, unquote. They suggest that what Ned found at the Tower of Joy was not just Eliana, but was in fact an assembly line style factory of women whom Rhaegar was attempting to impregnate to create, I guess, like an army of Azor Ahais, or it's not really. So yeah, that made a lot of people want to set themselves on fire. Is I think the lesson. Did you guys read this award? This was posted back in June of 2017, in the throes of June.
I think my favorite part, in addition to all of it, of course, but my favorite part is he lured them there with his charm and singing and kept them there as broodmares, as if he were like a Pied Piper just leading a trail of women down through Westeros into Dorne.
Into the
It's
mountains.
just fantastic.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I mean, it's there in the text, right? He's such a good singer. All the ladies love it. So we're just like one step away from this, yeah.
User Dane in a Shed. So his last sentence, if true, Rhaegar was far and away the worst of the Targaryens.
Big if true.
Right. It's
Big if true.
Big if true. Literally, yeah. It would be an expert flip of the idea we have of him as a paragon of royalty, they say. Right. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's technically correct.
Yes, if it were true.
If it's
that
true.
Would be.
Yeah.
Ned. Maybe this is why he couldn't return Lady Dustin's horse back up to the north, which she takes great offense with Ned about, because he had to give the horse to some of the other survivors so they could return home.
Oh, yeah, I bet that was it.
There are layers to this.
Yeah. This post raises a lot of questions because it makes you wonder who of those joyful ladies is now still running around Westeros, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of wiggle room in there. The top comment, I just wanted to kind of highlight this from user andlazy2. I'm just going to read a brief line from it. Your theory about Rhaegar keeping a sex dungeon that Ned found doesn't quite jibe. And then they go on to explain why that doesn't jibe. But I think you could stop there. It just doesn't.
Yeah, and a lot of the discussion in this theory makes a similar point of that and Lazy 2 did, that we have Ned's perspective, and Ned, he didn't nurse that grudge against Rhaegar, and that he would have definitely thought more negatively of him. And, he also thought that Rhaegar wasn't the kind of man to go to a brothel. I mean, maybe because he had his own, I don't know.
That someone does say that in the thread. Yeah, someone points out it would put a very different spin on Ned saying that he did not think Rhaegar bedded whores. No need, if you have a whole tower of lusty maidens. Thank you, user Crestor Crowsfoot, for that.
Maybe this is the twist George thought up. for the Winds of Winter.
The one that the show couldn't do.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't.
They couldn't get this many characters anymore.
Well, but see, I don't even know why I'm going to go into this, but anyway, you would think the show would look at another reason to have a scene in a brothel as something positive.
You know, obviously it won the Alchemist Award, this post. We all want to set ourselves on fire now, but there were 418 comments on this post, and there was a lot of actual discussion in the thread about Ned as a character, Rhaegar as a character, you know, genuinely good conversation. So I think that's kind of, for me, that's what I like about these, or what I think is really successful about some of these Alchemist level posts, is that even when they're being completely wacky and suggesting things that are just, you know, kind of berserk, they also hit on some actual real meat of the story, and people really get into that.
Is that what this username is a reference to? Like keeping a Dane in a shed, but like...
Oh, no.
I don't know. I don't know. You were like saying, I was like, is that what this is about? But like, I don't know.
Dane in a shed, please tell us what your username is a reference to.
Big if true. So next is Best Catch. And for this one we have Exploding Octopus 125. Is it like 125 exploding octopi?
I think
anyway,
so.
And we have Exploding Octopus 125. And their post, Robert and Rhaegar are the evil villains of each other's fairy tale. And I really just like the poetry behind this post. And it's the idea of, you know, like, Rhaegar was a handsome prince who was perfect in every way imaginable, and one day he fell in love with a beautiful young princess, but she happened to be betrothed to a powerful and lustful lord who wouldn't treat her honorably, so they ran away together and lived happily ever after. Until the princess's brother and father were brutally murdered by the king, the kingdom goes into a bloody war. The evil Storm Lord kills the prince in battle, takes the throne for himself, and the princess dies in childbirth. And then on the other hand, for Robert, you have strapping young lord who was in love with a beautiful young princess until one day an evil dragon came, kidnapped the princess, and locked her in the tower. The lord gathered together his friends and marched on the dragon's lair to get his true love back, slaying the dragon himself in single combat. However, it turned out that the princess had died in her tower, and the lord, now the king, was left heartbroken with a new bride he didn't love.
Yeah, I mean, this post, first off, deserves to win Best Catch, because it's a great catch that's really baked into like the fundamental premise of A Song of Ice and Fire, and just raises really interesting points about like the perspectives that we look at Robert and Rhaegar with. I think when we start out the story, Robert looks very much the way they describe here, like, oh yes, he was a strapping, handsome young man who fell in love with a beautiful princess, and the more we learn, the more see the complexities of that. So I think, this is a great sort of catch, that you have these two conflicting fairy tales. And what I think is interesting is they both center on two guys not necessarily treating Lyanna Stark like a person. I don't know if that's what Exploding Octopus was going for in their post, but that's kind of what I took away from it. Like, Robert and Rhaegar, their stories both centered around Lyanna, but not in like a positive way.
A couple of people have pointed out in the discussion, you know, that it's so in line with how George R. R. Martin plays with the storybook fairy tale ideas that we've all grown up with. Yeah.
Rhaegar literally being a dragon who kidnaps a princess kind of thing. That's it, there's a commenter Django117 who says they feel really stupid for not realizing that earlier, that Rhaegar was a literal textbook fairy tale dragon.
Yeah, but at the same time, as Theons_sausage points out, Rhaegar is also Paris of Troy.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's true.
For the dumb ones like myself in the audience, what was that be?
I don't know either. I just felt like I needed to say something. I have no idea. It's been a long time since I've read the Iliad.
We were talking about Paris Hilton, right? Paris Hilton?
Yeah. Paris of Troy.
Oh, I thought you meant Lieutenant Paris from Voyager.
Oh, there's the obligatory Star Trek reference that no one else gets. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, I don't get the Star Trek term, but yeah. We're even.
Paris of Troy kicked off the Trojan War by quote unquote kidnapping Helen, Agamemnon's wife, Menelaus' wife. Yeah, Menelaus's. Yeah.
Yeah, Agamemnon's wife did.
No, Agamemnon had a whole different family situation.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Paris kicked off the whole thing by kidnapping Helen of Troy, which led to this whole brutal and bloody war. So, and in the story of the Iliad, Paris is very much like a singer, and some things depict him as almost kind of like a fop who isn't very good at fighting, and sort of this courtly guy who's not a very good soldier. So the idea of this singing man stealing away a princess and starting a whole bloody war. They're right. This user, was it Theon Sausage who said that?
Yes.
Well said, Theon Sausage. That's a good connection. A nice catch.
It also makes sense that there are so nice parallels to these characters because they are the starting point when George is writing the series, so he can set everything up exactly like how he wants it to be thematically, and everything pushing and pulling against each other in these different ways, whereas like maybe later on in the Winds of Winters, like some of these parallels like this may not exist because he's starting from like a midpoint where things weren't entirely set up from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like George does that from time to time. That's why he introduces more POVs and more characters. It's because he's trying to add in new things from scratch into the already existing story so he can make it more interesting.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, these might be things that he had thought of before, maybe he hadn't, but it's uncovering the story from two ends, right? Because there is a lot of mystery around the rebellion, and just we're learning about how we got here, and then also while learning where this current timeline and story goes.
Yeah, you make a whole mini-series about it.
Hey.
Damn, dude.
Dead horse.
Also, I want to point out this other comment by OP, by Exploding Octopus 125. So someone was talking about Howland Reed, I guess, as Shrek.
Sure.
And how Lyanna Stark is Fiona from Shrek, confirmed. But I just really love this comment from Exploding Octopus 125, where he converts All-Star by Smash Mouth into wait, there's more. Other people have chimed in also, and then it gets continued by Jan Michael Vincent 16, and then Heartless Xiao 2 more times. Anyways, I'm just gonna sing it. Somebody once told me, Harrenhal's gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest spear in the neck. She was looking kinda wild and beautiful. She styled blue roses in her hair. Well, the spears start coming, and they don't stop 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 coming. And it's just a beautiful exchange in an already beautiful discussion and thread.
Oh, wow, yeah. I didn't even see this the first time. I'm really glad you pointed that out.
Oh my god, it's that deserved an award all on its own.
Aaron, you want to introduce the Dolorous Ed Award?
Hi, I might as well. Here we go. We're going with the Dolorous Ed Award, everyone's favorite award. It's the award for the best, one-liners, right? I'm trying to remember it from last year.
Yes.
Yeah. Best one, the award for the funniest one-liner.
One-liner. Okay. And this comes from a thread called What Should the Name of the Last Episode of the Series Be? And Saint Sebastian chimes in here saying, Lady Stoneheart is in this one. Lady Stoneheart would neither appear nor be referenced.
Oh my god, no, I love it. Sorry, I started laughing because that was my first time reading it.
That stays in the cast. Oh, man. Yeah, I mean...
For those of you that don't get this joke, it is because every single season episode since Lady Stoneheart should have appeared has kind of teased her apparition. Like, season 3 ends with the last episode title being Misa, which stands for Mother. So obviously they're gonna have Lady Stoneheart in it. But then she didn't appear, so people were like, okay, it's gonna be next year.
Yeah, the season premiere.
You get to season 4.
She's totally gonna be here.
The children.
That one was a little thin, but we all kind of expected it that year, so...
Yeah, and then next year, season 5, everybody's like, okay, they're gonna have to do it this year. And so then you get to the end, and it's titled Mother's Mercy.
Yeah.
That one hurt.
And because she's called Mother Merciless as well.
She is. Yep.
Yeah, and the appendix of A Feast for Crows, so it's like, oh my god. In season 6, we got The Winds of Winter. And last season, we got The Dragon and the Wolf.
Yeah.
But they really got to get back into that Stoneheart vibe. So just saying, making the last hour, Stoneheart is in this one. Really.
And then Lena Headey also, like, she, like, posted on Instagram that heart made out of stones.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And we all thought for sure, yes, okay, she's sending a little wink to the fandom. Nope, just trolling. Or she found a really nice rock formation.
Yeah, I mean, she just likes rocks.
She's like, I had no idea what this was about.
Because she's never read the books.
Yeah. I just started laughing the moment I saw this, like, one-liner because, I don't know, I just felt very personally attacked because this is me. I'm like, guys, it's this year. It's gonna happen. We're gonna get Lady Stoneheart. It's happening.
I can't wait for the twist where it turns out John gives up his life for Kat. Oh, that's gonna be crazy. Oh, man. So, now, a few of these Tier 2 award winners we've actually talked about before on the cast. The first one is the winner of the Citadel Award. And Jen, can you explain exactly what the Citadel Award is?
Yeah, so the Citadel Award is the one that goes to the best research, theory, or analysis regardless of the theory's plausibility.
So it's like a high-effort post, right? The idea is that the winner is a high-effort, very well crafted post, right? Very, very academical.
Yeah, academical, the technical term. Yeah, yeah. So I guess as close to academic as you could say, and I don't mean this as snarky as it's coming out, but yeah, something that's just very well put together, and you probably could turn it in as an essay to your college professor if for some reason you would need to do that.
Sure. Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. So the winner this year for the Citadel Award, we actually have talked about before on Maester Monthly. It was the Murphy Sue for their post Sansa Bolton's plotline 2 years later. What did it bring and what did it rob us of? And I'll read their TLDR, which is, it's been 2 entire seasons and Sansa's rape has brought nothing to the table. It didn't change anything about Sansa as a player in the Northern context or as a character, besides the harmful implication that it made her, quote, stronger, unquote. There is also a Season 5 shaped hole in Sansa's characterization that led viewers to being confused as to where her leadership skills come from because they weren't earned. It was officially just for shock value. And that's the TLDR of this very long, very in-depth post. It really is very, very well put together and constructed. And we talked about that in episode 7 with our special guest, Manu, a nuclear bomb from Twitter. So you can go check out that episode for us giving some more in-depth thoughts on the Murphy Sue's post. And
then this other Tier 2 award that won for Best Theory Analysis is another one that we've also spoken about, by Yezin IRL for the identity of Urathon Nightwalker is. And this is, we talked about this more in depth on episode 8 during the 12 highlights of Christmas cast. And summed up, the post says that the identity of Urathon Nightwalker, whose like glass candles are burning in Karth, is that he's actually Euron. And that there's a lot of similarities between the stories of Urathon Nightwalker and then, like, the stories of, what was it? Sorry, Urathon Bad Brother and Uragon Good Brother from Ironborn lore, and that Euron has adopted these into his persona as a pseudonym for himself.
And I think, I mean, the theory analysis category, Jen, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it sort of goes to a post that it's not necessarily breaking new ground, but is expanding on or analyzing an existing theory and really sort of breaking it down and evaluating it.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great summary of what the award, the winners typically are.
So the idea for Eurathon and Euron, that's been around for a while in the fandom, but Yezin really laid it out very well, laid out a lot of the quotes and the evidence fairly concisely, honestly. And, for a lot of people, it was also the first time they'd seen this theory, which is always something cool about the community, I think. The top comment is someone saying, been a while since someone made a solid connection that I had not already seen before. So even when people are just sort of analyzing or talking about things that seem like common knowledge to those of us who've been around for a long time, for a lot of fans, it's still something new, and that's kind of cool about the community. Why it's always worth doing these kind of posts.
Also, I totally bungled up some of that Ironborn lore. It was Uragon, Grey Iron died, and then his sons, Urathon, good brother, who's also actually Urathon, bad brother, and the story of how he gets set aside because of Torgon Latecomer. Anyway,
right.
Yeah,
that's
right.
all.
Okay, yeah.
I was going off of memory.
Honestly, hard to remember.
I mean, the theory is easy to remember because, best theory analysis. It won for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. It did.
Euron's in Karth. He followed the Warlocks and captured Pyat Pri, and then, then he headed over to the Iron Isles. Yeah. There's weird, spooky stuff going on with Euron.
Weird, wild stuff.
Arr.
Arr. All right.
Arr.
He's just trying to conjure up a shadow parrot.
to complete his pirate image, he wants a shadow
He's strapping
parrot.
these people to his ship just in order to make a shadow parrot.
Wait, is a shadow?
That's it.
Would the shadow parrot be like Mormont's raven? Think about it, because it says words, and it's a bird, and it's dark like a shadow. So are ravens just shadow parrots?
Well, that's what I'm going to call them when I go to the zoo from now on. look, mother, shadow parrots. That sums up the tier 2 categories. So now we're going to talk about the tier 1 winners, and these are the categories that actually, yeah. What separates tier 1 from tier 2? Jen, why don't you tell us?
That is an excellent question. The tier 1 winners, the first place winner and the second place winner, both win the Flare and the Reddit Gold.
And how did we determine which categories were tier 1 and tier 2?
The tier 1 categories are the ones that got the most votes whenever we selected this year's categories. So these are the categories that the community wanted to see recognized.
This is the bread and butter of the ASOIAF sub, basically.
Yes, right, yeah. This is the real meat and potatoes here. So the first category we're going to talk about is the best character analysis. And this is for a post that focuses on a specific character in A Song of Ice and Fire and really, analyzes them. I mean, it sums up who they are, adds some commentary and all that. And the winner this year went to, the username is Zombie Bait, for A Falling Star in Westeros Part 1, analyzing Ashara Dane. And for the record, Zombie Bait is also known as Queen of Love and Booty on Twitter. She also has her podcast, Drunk ASOIAF, Drunk Song of Ice and Fire, and is generally just very active in the community. So it was cool to see her win for her Ashara Dane post.
It's a big post.
This is a massive post. She put an enormous amount of work into this. Yeah, this is part 1 of 5.
And it's only part 1 of a many-part series. Part 2 just came out as of recording, yesterday, day before. So definitely check that out.
And it's a multi-part series that's not about warging or werewoods, which is rare.
It is rare, honestly, at this point. And it focuses entirely on Ashara Dane, who's introduced early on in A Game of Thrones, but who we still know so little about. And I think one of the things that really makes this stand out, and probably why it won so many votes, is because a lot of what we know about House Dane in general has to sort of come from appendices or things George has mentioned at conventions. And Zombie Bait, Queen of Love and Booty, put in a ton of work into tracking down all of this information, all these dates and timelines and everything to really get an idea of not just Ashara and who she is, but of Edric Dane and Gerald Darkstar Dane and Arthur Dane and who all these people are and how they fit into this family. So it's really more, this post, than just talking about Ashara, although there's a lot of sections breaking down Ashara's life and her supposed death.
Definitely, Ashara Dane seems like she's got a really big role to play in the story to come. And there's a So Spake Martin from, it's probably from, like 2002 or something. I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head. But where George specifically says that Ashara Dane wasn't nailed down in Starfall. So it seems to indicate that she did something. And there's tons of speculation as to what that is. Zombie Bait doesn't get into that in this post, but I look forward to the further parts of it.
Yeah, a lot of what Zombie Bait wanted to do here was just get a better look at who Ashara Dane really was, what her story might be, because a lot of it is characterized, through the lens or idea of like men who desired her, right? But where is Ashara's voice in this story? So she's part one is like setting that foundation for the rest of the series, talking about the timeline. Part two focuses on identity. What Ashara's role in the story is not necessarily. She's not a big part of the book. She's not that significant. So trying to find that balance for her narrative.
I'm just wondering how she fits into the baby factory.
Yeah.
She's the Dane. Is she the Dane in the shed? I don't know.
I think she might be the Dane in the shed. It's very cool, I think, that the top comment on this post is actually from Elio Garcia, who is one of the co-authors of The World of Ice and Fire, frequent collaborator with George R. R. Martin. And he had a small note about one of the Danes in Game of Thrones or in the backstory or whatever. I just think that kind of speaks to the quality of the post, that Elio read through it and was like, yeah, okay, I want to engage with that. This is a significant contribution to the fandom, I would say. Now, we should probably also mention that the runner-up in this category, who was also a Reddit Gold winner, was user Defected66 for their post Bloodraven, Shepherd of Fate. And in case you couldn't guess from the title, this was a post analyzing Bloodraven's life. And they broke it down by sections, starting out, with his life as a bastard in the capital, the hand of the king, and then when he's exiled to the wall as the Lord Commander, and of course, finally, going beyond the wall as the last Green Seer. And it ended with sort of a tinfoily section, which he called the Shepherd in the East, and theorizing that Shira Seastar, Bloodraven's fellow great bastard, was sort of an equivalent off in the East. But it's another one of these very strong posts, just breaking down an important historical character's life, and a character who has an impact on the current story we're reading. I mean, Brynden Bloodraven is still alive. Yeah,
the blood shadow parrot.
Yeah, exactly. The blood shadow parrot. Look,
wrong character.
Look, mother.
Although, yeah, it is Bloodraven makes.
Yeah, blood shadow parrot.
Maybe it's just a raven made of blood.
Oh.
Think of that one. How can a raven be red and be made of blood? Or black?
What do a raven and a writing desk have in common?
I mean, aren't all ravens also made of blood?
Yes.
Do they not all have blood?
Most things are made of blood.
Hashtag not all things. Michael, that's not true.
Look, I'm a simple man.
Half of Michael's house, his pillows are made of blood.
Oh my god.
He has a blood waterbed.
Ooh. Oh, a bed of blood.
Oh, maybe she just had a waterbed that was filled with blood.
God.
We did it. That's the big twist.
Nothing but the best in the Tower of Joy brothel.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
God.
it's hard to get a lot of nice feather beds for all of those lusty wenches. So Oh boy. Now actually, Eliana, you received a shout out in this post as well.
So did Matt. Matt's is actually much more thematically tied into this.
Well, yeah.
Because, it's breaking down the role of Bloodravens feeling motivated and feeling a sense of duty, or maybe to ensure that a specific Targaryen bloodline ascends to the throne, because of the belief that that Targaryen would be the prince that was promised, fulfilling that prophecy, and the assumption that fulfilling that prophecy means, as Defected says, ultimately beating back the Long Night. And, what role does prophecy play within, Targaryen lives? They also point to Matt's post on Aemon and Rhaegar's correspondence. But, more directly, Bloodraven obviously has a connection to seeing the future and seeing the past. So he has more power around trying to shape all of that and using that power to try and steer.
Yeah, I mean, they reference Matt's post because, Matt's post touched on the relationship between Aemon and Rhaegar, and they're looking into sort of the role Bloodraven played in this relationship as well as a predecessor and as a confidant of Aemon's. And the influence, the ripples we see from Bloodraven's efforts, even to this day. To this day, obviously, 300 years after Aegon's landing, not the year of our Lord 2018 AD. Sorry. So I think that's a cool pair of first place and runner-up for character analysis, where you have Ashara Dane and Chloe writing about Ashara Dane as this character who stories are projected onto, but who's very much mysterious. And then Bloodraven, who is, Defected is arguing that Bloodraven is sort of projecting his stories onto history. I think that's cool that people looking at sort of the meta-narratives and that character analysis is what's really rising to the top, like cream.
It's also, physically, the two characters may be most far apart from each other in Westeros.
That's true.
Oh,
I mean,
that is interesting.
Ashara Dane is several 100,000 leagues under the sea, dead, and Bloodraven is alive.
What is life anyway?
Shadow parrots.
We are all just shadow parrots, aren't we, Mother? All right.
All right, so next we have Comment of the Year, and actually some great fun fact or backstory behind this Comment of the Year. Jen?
This award was the biggest landslide this year, so the first place just
crushed it.
Yeah, I didn't want to say crushed. That makes it seem like so negative.
Beat it to a bloody pulp.
Yeah, this was far and away the winner this year.
So we're going to start off a little differently for this one. We're going to tell you what the second place was before talking about the first place winner. But the second place winner was Behind the Quaith, for uncovering the true motive of the others. And I think Behind the Quaith was actually a best of 2016 winner for
the Clegane Bowl, the post/comment that got you the most hyped.
So the true nature of the others is, as Behind the Quaith says, we're just invading because you guys have sweaters and summers, the Night King. Talking about how the others just turns out don't like the cold, and geese are moving south. No.
Migratory zombies?
The others are geese.
Yeah, the others are geese.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. They're moving south for the winter.
They're big.
Anyway, so Behind the Quaith was the runner-up for that comment, right? For we're just invading because you guys have sweaters and summers.
Also would have been a good candidate, probably for the Dolorous.
Yeah, I wonder if the vote was split there or anything,
There is always some kind of an overlap between the Dolorous Award and Comment of the Year, because the Dolorous you usually can't make one-liners as posts, so...
Yeah, I
mean, there are obviously going to be comments, but our number one Comment of the Year, who crushed it, is Lemon Wizard.
Woo! Lemon Wizard! I like this name. I just like this name a lot.
Lemon...
I don't know why. There's something that just feels so fun about it.
Well, it's very fitting with their topic. Yeah.
Oh my god, it is.
Yeah. So what is that
I didn't
topic?
even think about that. Yeah, so the topic is that Littlefinger views Sansa as a goal to be won, and not as a pawn in his game, a piece that he would use and move, and this would cause Littlefinger to fail because he stops preparing for scenarios where Sansa is his enemy, viewing her only as a goal and not as a piece or a player on the board, which would ultimately lead to his downfall.
Yeah, it's a great comment. And honestly, it only got 12 upvotes back in the day. This was in July of 2017. And the person who replied to it, who was Skull of the Great John, who in fact won in 2016 the Alchemist Award, called it Comment of the Year back in July.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, way to go, Green Seer. But the part that they highlighted was the sentence, his, Littlefinger's, desire to pursue Sansa will cause him to stop preparing for scenarios where she is his enemy. And I feel like that's, I mean, like you said, Eliana, that's like the takeaway here. And
it's very insightful.
It's super insightful. And a lot of people, I think, struggle with Sansa's story because they don't see that it's going anywhere or anything like that. So to break down how it can go somewhere and how Littlefinger is sort of weak to Sansa and all that, to do that so pithily and so well, serves best comment. That's what I say.
I'm going to cautiously disagree with some of this post.
Go ahead and do it, but do it cautiously.
Are you going to do it?
I don't know if I'm going to or not. I'm debating it. I think it's kind of taken as like a paradigm in the fandom that Sansa is going to be the downfall of Littlefinger, because also that's the way the show has gone. But I'm not necessarily sure that he sees Sansa as totally, like, just completely blind to her potentially being a threat, and him seeing her completely blind with open desire as my end goal is a picture of you and me on the Iron Throne together. I'm not so sure he wouldn't throw her by the wayside if she became more trouble than she was worth. Because we're also colored by what we're led to believe on Littlefinger from Sansa's chapters, what she believes, and the way that Littlefinger heavily carries himself around her. Rather than, if you go and you look at other point of views that have interacted with Littlefinger, you generally don't see so much of Sansa being carried out in them as being this big overarching thing that he cares about. I mean, he does care about her, but I'm just not so sure that she is the big kahuna cheese, the piece to be won, the queen sort of thing.
I mean, I think he does apply his romantic feelings for Catelyn to Sansa, you know, like he's retargeted those, but it is like he underestimates her.
I think Cat is actually a really good example of this, because you look back on his history, he has quote unquote like loved Cat for 2 decades, but he never like went out of his way to protect her or jeopardize his pursuit of power and climbing the ladder for whatever happens with Cat in her life.
Oh, sure.
He took revenge on Joffrey, but how much did that play into his overall plans anyway? He didn't really go after Tywin. He didn't go after Walder Frey. So I think in some way, Littlefinger's true pursuit has always been about power and more about him getting revenge on how he was shamed by like Brandon Stark, rather than actually his love interest. And that while he might believe and have feelings towards Sansa and Catelyn, ultimately, I question whether or not he really has a blind spot there, which would lead him to making a stupid mistake in his pursuit of power. I think it would fit into Littlefinger's character still if that didn't happen, if he saw like that Sansa was invading on like his plans and causing him some trouble.
Sure,
I'm not so sure he wouldn't step on her and see her kind of as like another Brandon rather than as like another Cat.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't really see what Aaron is saying as being necessarily contradictory to this comment, because, like, saying that Sansa... Yes, we don't know what Littlefinger's main motivation is, but just because if Sansa starts acting out of line from whatever his end goal actually is, he might not necessarily be prepared for that, and that's still, you know, puts him at a slight disadvantage because, again, if he's not prepared for that, doesn't necessarily think she'll act out of line, it still sets her up to be a cause of his downfall.
Mm-hmm.
I would say maybe she won't be the cause of his downfall. Maybe he will end up seeing it and end up taking her out first.
It just doesn't, it's not in line with the Ghost of High Heart's prophecy.
Right.
Yeah.
The Ghost of High Heart's prophecy, what does it really say anyway?
What does any of this really say, man?
I know. What is life?
In order to know the end of Sansa's story, you would have to be some sort of lemon wizard.
Oh!
Oh my goodness!
There you go. The Ghost of High Heart's prophecy says what? Like that she will put like the head of the giant up on a spear at Winterfell. It's awfully vague.
No.
No.
That's what she does to Sweet Robin's little doll of her.
What's the
prophecy says that
slaying a giant in a castle of snow, right?
So
yeah.
A maid with purple, with purple serpents in her hair, slaying a giant in a castle made of snow.
Yeah,
and then that gets repeated again with Robert Arryn, as Jen pointed out, with Sansa tearing the doll apart as she's making that snow castle and putting its head upon a spike. And, this seems kind of in line with George R. R. Martin's threefold reveal strategy, where first he, gives you the hint, then he'll, give a second one pointing towards it.
It also could deal with Tyrion, though, because he is the giant of Lannister, and he casts a giant shadow, and his stature is small, but in the same way Littlefinger is, underestimated. I'm just saying, prophecy is a tricky thing, and I wouldn't get caught up in this idea that it definitely has to be this way. Because...
Nah, but come on, it's got to be that way.
She's a gardener.
Come on. Come on. No.
Okay.
Sure, but, Littlefinger is in the scene again, is part of the impetus of that scene to some extent with Robert Arryn and the doll. Littlefinger's there, so it's tying him already into that narrative.
Also, I think George is telling
there's a thematic arc with him, the Maester overcoming the I don't want to get too hung up on this.
Yeah, we have a little wiggle room on time, but yeah, I think we overestimate sometimes how much George is actually gonna do that's different from arcs and stories we're familiar with. So yeah, the idea of the apprentice surpassing the master, or
it's his first episode of Rick and Morty too.
Sansa as Catelyn, and as the sort of scion of Catelyn and Lysa's line, being the one to finally destroy Littlefinger. That's got a lot of really cool thematic and character resonance in it that I think is worth hoping for.
Robb also has to defeat the Lannisters until he doesn't.
Sure, but the clues and, I don't know, not necessarily laid down for that.
And, frankly, I just expect him to kill Littlefinger, because Littlefinger's so smug all the time. And what's the point in having a smug character if you don't have that one moment where they lose their smugness, like we saw with Littlefinger in the show? That was so satisfying because we spent years with him being so smug. And then he wasn't.
It's also worth noting that Sansa wasn't a major player in George's original outline.
She had a role to play. She just...
Yeah, but she wasn't like Arya or Jon or one of the other big kids.
Brienne didn't exist in that outline either. So
yeah, I don't know. It's I feel like
there's 5 characters that he mentions at the end, which are the story culminates or something where blah 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 blah, and Sansa isn't among them. It's something like that. Anyway,
he also doesn't mention Euron Greyjoy. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't mention John Connington because he hadn't thought of that yet either.
John Connington was an inspired choice. I like the choice of John Connington. Anyway,
he's a craft brew.
He didn't even mention Kyle Condon, which I can't believe he didn't mention Kyle Condon.
Okay, where are we?
All right, We've slipped. We need to get back.
I have a question. Did Skull of the Greyjohn nominate this comment?
Ooh.
It's possible.
I don't know. You'd have to be some sort of lemon wizard.
Yes, he did.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Well, good for them, like, good for Skull of the Greyjohn, though, for finding a comment that they liked, and obviously Skull of the Greyjohn probably, like, used res or something to save this so that they could follow up on it and make sure that they gave credit and respect to a comment that they really liked. And that you should do that too, dear listener. If you see any comments or posts that you like throughout the year of 2018, save it and bring it back around.
Absolutely. Send it, print it out, tack it to your wall with a thumbtack, or write down the URL on your arm in permanent marker so that you always have it. Any one of these methods can be used to remember posts to nominate for the best of awards. Aaron, you want to do Shiniest Tinfoil?
No, I don't. I looked at these. I don't want to do them.
All right.
I think Jen should do it. This will be hers.
So the next category to talk about is Shiniest Tinfoil for this year. And second place this year went to Dragon Tamer 02 for the short but sweet theory that Cersei was cloned. And he postulates, or she postulates, that Cersei has been acting irrationally since Qyburn came to King's Landing, and one possible explanation is that Qyburn has imprisoned the real Cersei and has made an evil clone. I mean, it could have happened. That's possible.
They are technically correct in that an explanation could be that.
One of the many possibilities.
Right.
I'm just going to quote Jeff Brendan Beefish's comment, which is the top comment on here, which is, I have never read anything more confirmed in my entire life.
Maybe Rob warged into Cersei before he died and is now inhabiting her body and is like making her make stupid decisions.
Oh, that's
it
possible.
Does lead to a lot of some really good contributions in the comments, sort of feeding this idea. Fellow moderator Mighty Isabel suggests that the queen at Robert Baratheon's side was the evil clone, and Qyburn freed the real Cersei and restored her to her rightful place.
Wow.
I love how she finishes up, that could have happened.
And there's actually some really great Star Wars EU reference in here from Ragnar Greystark, referring to the Thrawn trilogy, the original one written by Timothy Zahn, using a Yssel Miri to clone Cersei.
Sparty cloning cylinders.
Sparty cloning cylinders, yeah. I'm glad this one. I mean, Shiniest Tinfoil, I think, is a proud Raswaff tradition, because as much as we are known for high-quality content, we're also known for extremely silly, ridiculous things.
Absolutely.
And this fits in a proud tradition.
Yes. So that was the runner-up, and the winner for this year's Shiniest Tinfoil comes from Ilrio Moparties for Let's Speculate Wildly About the Possibility That Renly Was Robert's Son. And, he's got some words that talk about the possibility that Renly could be Robert's son. I mean, there's Robert sleeping with his mother in there. And speculation that that's why Robert went to the Vale. He was being punished to be being sent to Jon Arryn to learn how to behave. I love how in depth he goes. Yeah. And I'm interested to find out precisely when Robert was sent away to the Vale.
Gotta get those timelines.
Yeah. If only Chloe had weighed in on this.
Yeah. Best collaboration.
Oh, God.
I just like the but what if Robert had done something naughty and was being sent to Jon Arryn? Like Oedipal crimes.
It would be like how they separated Jaime and Cersei to tie it to the other the other Shinest Tinfoil.
Oh yeah,
is
what a
that,
twist.
That's right.
It perfectly mirrors that.
Absolutely. John Aaron was known for straightening out things like this.
He's a fixer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fixing problems of incest and wrong parentages gone awry.
Maybe that's why John Aaron was so busy playing Punnett Squares, Eliana, because he was concerned that it's also true in the opposite direction as well.
What if the seed is strong was actually about Renly?
What if?
Oh, there it is. Renly was born in the year 277. Robert was born in the year 262. So he was he 15? Is that right? Wow. Yeah, I mean, he was 15 when Renly was born. So that's old enough to father a child, especially in A Song of Ice and Fire, where all the kids are sort of like preternaturally gifted.
Is that what we're calling that?
Gifted?
Gifted and talented children.
The seed was strong.
Yeah, there is kind of a lot of speculation about who the mother could be. Is it, Mrs. Baratheon? Is it Rhaella Targaryen? That's a fun thought. And a lot of good discussion in the thread, I would say, of people engaging with this. I will say user Jimbo has a great comment in here where they start out, it's many paragraphs, so I won't read it, but it begins with, "You've left a much shinier third option, that Robert somehow asexually reproduced. It may be via some sort of spore method that eventually grew into Renly." Oh my gosh. Oh, that's amazing.
I didn't see this comment. This is fantastic.
This is an incredible comment.
Oh my god, it keeps... But it is more likely that he secretly had both sets of sex organs and that Renly was his first child and Crescent was the father.
Wait, but that could be in line. Okay, so I'm gonna spoil a Robert A. Heinlein story. Because George R. R. Martin has cited Heinlein as one of his biggest influences for why he got into writing.
Totally.
And in Robert A. Heinlein's short story, All You Zombies, there is a character who has both sets of reproductive organs and time travels and has sex with themselves and gives birth to themselves. And Renly is the splitting image of Robert. So...
Wait, that ties back to a previous... I can't remember if it was Tinfoil or Alchemist award winner, that Tyrion was the time traveler.
You're right.
But, you know what? I guess it really could be Robert is a time traveler. Or was it Renly?
It could be.
It's also a Futurama episode.
It is a Futurama episode, likely inspired by
All You
Robert A.
Zombies.
Heinlein's, by All You Zombies.
And I think, I can't remember if the Tyrion time-traveling fetus won, I can't remember if that won, I think that won Alchemist Award, not Shinest Tinfoil. I think this is in that tradition of...
it is.
Just, just insane posts. The kinds of things that we
shiniest.
The shiniest. The things that we should email to George R. R. Martin as evidence for why he should just release anything he has now, please.
I mean, if it's the shiniest, the most light reflects from it and hits you in the eyes and blinds you. So...
That's true. The Shinest Tinfoil. The Shinest Tinfoil keeps the government's ray beams out of your head.
Yes.
Right? Because you're wearing tinfoil hats. I mean, that's where this comes from, right? Is tinfoil hats, conspiracy theories, so tinfoil.
Yeah.
And then that's where our
shiniest
tinfoil term has come from. A little fan etymology.
The Tyrion time traveler he won the Alchemist Award in 2015. Well, for 2015.
If I remember right, that was the reason the Alchemist Award was created, right?
You know what? I think you're right. I don't have those records at my fingertips right now, but that does sound very familiar.
Yeah.
And that the user who created that historical gem was XY Seth, just to give him credit once again.
Tyrion is a time-traveling fetus, the product of Drogo and Daenerys, I don't think so. I don't, I think it's kind of, because there's like a whole lot of history about the fact that he was kind of born and killed his mum doing it. So, I don't know how that's gonna hold up.
Yep, XY Seth. Wait, XY? Like male and female chromosomes? Like all you zombies? Robert?
Well, I was thinking like Kyle XY, and they don't have a belly button.
Yeah. That's right. Does Robert have a belly button?
I don't know what the twist.
Well, Robert has an extra
Good
belly
question.
button now that boar got to him. And am I right, guys?
Oh, damn, Michael.
Anyway, I guess we're gonna go. We're going to get into the best new theory post for the year. First place. We'll do
What are
second
you
place
doing?
first.
What the shit? It just happened.
I'm just trying to prep myself.
One of the POVs just took over Aaron's body.
Oh my god.
They're allowed to record because this is a Song of Ice and Fire related.
It's Peter Dinklage's terrible British accent.
That was Ariane Martel, you guys.
You know,
She was here.
if I had a bit more time to warm up with it, it's not terrible anymore. It used to be really bad.
I can do a good Beatles accent. My name's John Lennon.
Going into this one, it's best new theory. First place, or we're going to do second place first here. Second place goes to a theory by AOW Shadow, the
Ayo.
always
Yo!
Shadow.
Oh!
AO Shadow, who says, Robert Sweet Robin Baelish. And this post starts out with, in this thread, the reasons why I believe Sweet Robin to be Littlefinger's son. In all honesty, I don't think it to be too relevant to the plot. It's just a tidbit, but maybe highlights once again how much of a monster that Littlefinger guy is, assuming he knows about the little kid, or even that he would care. Sad face. So it goes into, there are several little highlights, like title subsections. Song of Ice and Fire genetics, he matches up with Littlefinger. Sometimes Lysa's words are ambiguous. John Aaron and Littlefinger's fertility, the Tansy, the T, getting Lysa pregnant before. So there's maybe something there. John Aaron's not supposed to be very, very virile, is the word.
The seed is not strong.
Yeah, the seed is weak. He casts a very small shadow.
I mean, the shadow could still be big. It's just not potent. It's not.
It's firing blanks. Yeah. His bowstrings twanging, but the arrows aren't flying. You know what I'm saying?
What do you guys think?
I think it's a great post. It's really well researched and perfectly laid out. I don't know. It's one of those things that really could be true, but it doesn't. I don't know why narratively that would happen. You would think if Sweet Robin were going to be Littlefinger's son, that he would play a part in Littlefinger's eventual downfall, and it just doesn't seem like the story is lining up there. It just seems like Sansa is which is a whole conversation from previously. I don't see how it fits in the story.
I think it would help make Littlefinger more of a monster than he is. I suspect this will be something that would never be confirmed or denied by George. Just be like a little maybe, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you, Jen, in that like it seems like it would have to serve some sort of narrative purpose if we got like an answer to the if it turned out it was a twist, like it would have to impact the story somehow, and I don't know how that would work. That being said, it is still a really well put together post, and there's a really good comment from Mark G171 who talks with AO Shadow in the comments and points out that Sweet Robin's conception actually lines up exactly with Littlefinger becoming the master of coin under John Aaron's John Aaron making Littlefinger the master of coin, which is just kind of an interesting tidbit. Was it John Aaron suspecting that Littlefinger had fathered his son and sending him away? Was it AO Shadow's tinfoil is that Littlefinger basically paid for his job by giving John Aaron a son, as like a sperm donor, which, I mean, that seems a little out there, but it's like looking into the timelines and digging into the story and all that, and things that I hadn't really seen talked about before. So I think it's all cool stuff.
I had never seen like the evidence laid out like this. Like, I've heard sometimes like the assertion that he could be Littlefinger's son, but seeing it all laid out like this makes a very compelling case. Though, to play devil's advocate, Sean _PSC, Sean Push, says, Robert being Littlefinger's son I find impossible to reconcile with Lysa's breakdown in her final chapter. At that point, Lysa is desperate to remind Littlefinger of everything she's done for him. She's incredibly apologetic about not having given him a son, and says that it wasn't her fault. If she actually had given him a son, she would say as much.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
But, I mean, it's also entirely possible that she, like, just doesn't know. That they could have been sleeping together, but, like, also John Aaron, and, like, just doesn't know. I don't know. Lysa's, like, got a sad life.
She
but
really
she's
does.
not great either. But anyways.
So our winner for the best new theory goes to Feldman 10, Adam Feldman of the Miranese Blot, who wrote the Winds of Winter prologue theory, the silent man that Ilan Payne would be the prologue to the Winds of Winter. It's not a new theory, but it was very well laid out with a lot of the evidence.
Wow.
Well, I just gotta say it's true. It wasn't like I read it on Westeros.org like years ago. Like, this is not like it wasn't new.
Does he at least say that in his comment? Because, like, in his post? Because I thought he did say that it's, like, not necessarily new. And, like, I mean, I kind of did that just now, but I, like, buried it.
Yes,
I was like, yeah, I've heard the theory before.
He says, until I read the theory that the POV could be Cyril and Payne.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he does say that. Yeah.
So maybe if you, like, couch it like that, or something. Not just... Yeah.
And he says that it goes back to, like, at least 2015. So while it's the best new theory, it's not necessarily new, but it's laying out all the evidence in a very cohesive, constructive way that helps build the case for why Ilan Payne would make for a great prologue to the story. And we talked about this a lot in the 5-year gap episode that we had previously in the year.
That's right. So everyone should go check out the 5-year gap episode. And also, I will say, the thing that sort of augmented this theory and made it new was him sort of laying out the whole chapter and ending it with the wolf pack appearing and all that. And I'm not sure I'd seen someone put all of those pieces together before. So, and the other thing is, best new theory, we don't police it, on like, we don't hunt down the theories and go, aha, you can't win it. If it's new to someone, it's a new theory, I think is the best way to look at it.
That's
definitely
the stupidest thing.
I think for a lot of people, this was a really new and fascinating idea that Ilan Payne could be our point of view. But yeah, so if you want to hear more about that, check out the 5-year gap episode.
And I'm just really happy for Senpai.
Aw, Senpai. Maybe he'll notice us now.
Yeah, maybe Senpai will finally notice me. Okay.
Jen, do you want to say something about the voting?
Yeah, just before we move on from this one. So this category of these two, this was the closest vote this year.
Really?
Yeah, so Feldman won by just 1 vote.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. It was close.
It's like in Mulan, where they say a single grain of rice could tip the scales. One
It is
man.
just like Mulan.
Yes, absolutely. I've often said that too.
A single grain of rice.
Constantly about the best of contest. No, but yes, this was the closest one this year. And I don't think that we mentioned it, so I'm just going to do it really quick right now, that the award with the most votes this year was the Yezin for Best Theory Analysis. I just want to throw it in there. I missed it when we were talking about it.
Wow, awesome. That's crazy. I feel like every year we have at least 1 or 2, like, 1 vote contests, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
There are always a couple really close ones. Including the year, of course, which we talked about on the last episode, where Joe Magician and Sir Dunk the Lunk tied for, I think it was best new theory or best theory. And then, of course, they were both made moderators, so they're not allowed to win awards. So they both had to relinquish that title, and either of them gets best of.
Well, you still get to keep it.
Nope. They had to turn it in. Badge and gun.
Well, they can't win it again. They can't win it next year, but you still got to keep it. Like, I can still put mine on for best comment in 2015.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Shoot. Yeah. I could put mine on. Oh, no, wait. I don't.
Oh, you didn't win anything, did you?
I've never won it.
Okay, but the real treasure, as we say every time now, is the friends we made along the way.
That's right. That's right. I feel like I won the best of friends.
Yeah, I can put my friends on.
Didn't you almost win the writing tournament?
Yes, I was beaten in the writing tournament by Guildensternkrantz.
Guilty!
By somebody who speaks English as a second language, which is actually
that's
impressive.
Correct.
And also distressing for Michael.
Well, I phoned it in.
School. So. Yeah, you beat me, so.
Oh, that's right.
So finally for this year, the post of the year. Second place this year went to... Oh, was someone going to put a drum roll in there? Because I can stop and we can go back. The runner-up for this year was Holloway Division for his So Spake Martin search engine. Incredibly useful for people who want to delve deep into the Gurm lore, and very helpful too. The top comment is, of course, from Michael, only saying, oh my God. And I really I like that Holloway Division said that it was your very own glass candle. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, so the funny thing about this post is that we actually talked about the So Spake Martin search engine on our very first Maester Monthly episode, which was the Best of 2016 awards. Now, it didn't obviously win a award for 2016. We just talked about it as a nice post that we'd seen lately on the subreddit. But so this is the second time that the search engine has popped up in a Best of Awards podcast. So that's some sort of record for sure. I forgot I had the top comment too. That's pretty good.
Maybe we should talk about this post every year. Make it a tradition.
Oh, yeah.
I like traditions. This has ended up being immensely useful. I've actually continued to see people bringing it up in various areas of the fandom, whether it's on Twitter. I just saw someone recommending it to others in I think it was the History of Westeros Facebook group. So if you're into History of Westeros, go join that. There's a lot of discussion there. It's fun. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a very useful tool.
The search engine it's like the new Google.
Yes.
So, it's like the square in the bigger set of Google that is the rectangle, you know?
No.
Yes.
No. Yeah.
I get it. It's the blood parrot to the
the shadow parrot.
Shadow parrot, right? I forgot. The shadow parrot or the atonal blackbird.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, the first place post of the year this year goes to user A Kimball 1 for How Martin Writes.
A Kimball
1 for How Martin Writes, dissecting the first page of The Hedge Knight. And it's a really great post where he talks about just sort of the narrative, the crafting of the story. So I'm not doing it justice because A. Kimball is much, much more eloquent than I am. And he would be, since he says he is the former managing editor for a published literary journal called The Truth About Fact.
When I was editing this in the Christmas episode, because we talked about this a lot on the Christmas episode, I listened to Jeff say A. Kimball at the start probably about 200 or 300 times. So anytime somebody says A. Kimball, I just have Jeff's way of saying it in my head every single time. It's burned there.
You can dub his voice over mine if you need to.
Kimball.
A. Kimball.
Whenever I'm saying it, just insert Jeff saying it over top of me.
Kimball. Well, it's because I think Michael was introducing it, and Jeff just like jumps in and interrupts with a Kimball, which is why like I did that to you because I just felt like it needed to be done.
A Kimball.
It's part of the tradition. So we talk about Holloway's at search engine, and then we interrupt A Kimball's name.
A Kimball.
We did. We talked about this extensively on the on episode 8, the 12 subreddit highlights of Christmas. So for a really in-depth discussion on it, you can check out that episode as well. But yeah, I mean, this post, we loved it then and we love it now, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah. I just don't, I feel like I said all the things that I wanted to say about it like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
This post is also something that I go back to because recently there was this topic brought up on the Pink Letter, which we just did an episode on the Pink Letter, where somebody had looked at the text and had seen the reference to Mance Rayder in it feeling cold. Like, man, the cage is cold, but I've made him a warm cloak of the skin of the 6 whores who came with him into Winterfell. And they took that as like, okay, maybe the author of the Pink Letter is actually trying to sacrifice Mance to the cold, like the cold gods to the others. And that's what George is trying to infer by including this writing here about the cold. But when I got in this conversation with Eden on Twitter about it, A. Kimball's writing like just rung in my head about this because what George is doing here is he's trying to engage your physical senses. It's not about there being like a hidden message of like some crazy tinfoil here about the cold. George spent a lot of time on this, and he's trying to make it feel emotional and make it resonate with your body and how you feel the letter as much as you read it. So this post by Kimball, it's something that sticks with me and continues to touch me in multiple ways.
What are we talking about?
I think Ariane Martel slipped through there a little bit. You guys switched bodies again. Very responsive. No, it's true because like we talk a lot. There's a lot of posts about plot and a lot of posts about looking at characters' stories and the backstory and all that. I would say like an area that could always use more expansion is people talking about the actual like craft of the writing that goes into Song of Ice and Fire. So I think that's why this post resonated with so many people because it really hits that exact tone of like explaining some of, okay, this is why the story set feels so good when we read it, and this is why we get what George R. R. Martin is doing, and just really into the nuts and bolts of it, which a lot of us aren't equipped to write about or talk about.
And if you like this post, like, this isn't the only one that A. Kimball one has done. Like, the other ones are also great. Following this post, he also had one on, like, how Martin writes, examining the lore and world building in Brand 1, or how Martin writes, framing backstory with the Reigns of Castamere, the others in A Game of Thrones. Like, this is a great series, and if you liked this, check out the other ones.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a naming conventions post.
I like that one.
That they've done, yeah. The speed of completion post, which is an interesting one. And they also post these to /r/writing as well. I think some of them have kind of flown under the radar, but that they're all just as great as this one, I would say.
Absolutely.
And all just as educational.
He should compile these and like link them in the posts and stuff.
He should.
Yeah.
Make a blog.
Why would someone do such a thing? Oh wait, no, he does. Sorry, my bad. He does link them.
Oh.
So just I think the latest one, if anyone wants, and we can link this one. The latest of this series is the How Martin Writes naming conventions, and that has links to all of the other posts in this series. So we'll include that, and you can use that as a springboard to find these other posts.
Sweet.
Awesome.
You want me to just go ahead and do the wrap up then?
Yeah, sounds good. How would you rate these best ofs on a scale of apples to dingoes? I'd rate them an apple.
These were all apples across the board.
I would rate them Asian pears because I'm allergic to apples slightly. It also begins with letter A.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm a little bit allergic to apples as well.
Do you have springtime allergies?
Absolutely, yeah.
Aaron, aren't you allergic to apples? You have pollen allergies.
Yeah, but apples don't have... Okay, maybe they have to.
They are
I've never gotten sick from a fruit before.
No, it doesn't
Also
kill
don't-
you.
It just makes my
itchy.
throat itch or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Your mouth doesn't get itchy when you eat apples?
Oh, one time I ate an apple and then I fell into a coma and the 7 dwarves put me in a glass coffin. But then Prince Charming, who was actually me time traveling from the future, impregnated me and I gave birth to myself. Well, I think that about wraps it. I think that about wraps it up for the Best of Awards of 2017. We all said it a bunch of times, but I'll say it again. Like, it's so cool that so much great stuff gets written and posted on the subreddit every year. Jen, like you were saying earlier, there's always posts complaining about the long night that we're in between books here, but I think this goes to show there's always more stuff to talk about in our community.
At least 10 to 12 things out of the year.
There were at least 10 to 12 worthwhile things posted this year.
10 to 15.
If anyone happens to be curious about previous winners, we have them all listed on our wiki in a Hall of Fame. So you can see this year's winners as well as take a look back at previous winners too.
Absolutely, yeah. The award for winning a best of is not just the Reddit Gold and not just the Flare. It is being immortalized in our hallowed wiki.
Yeah, just go to the subreddit page, reddit.com/r/A Song of Ice and Fire. Well, ASOIAF.
No,
ASOIAF. And then just go to the wiki, mouse over it, and it's one of the drop downs. It'll say Best of Awards. You click on it, go to it. It'll be great. Love
and
it.
It also includes a lot of the honorable mentions. So people that, were respected, wrote things that were respected by fellow users, fellow community members, and while, they didn't get as many votes, are definitely worthy of being seen too.
Yeah, all of the nominees as well as the winners are listed.
All the way back to 2012.
Yes, 5 years
Wow.
ago.
Oh man, and you can even see the history of you can see when Dario is Benjen started, right? That's one of the winners, right? Oh man, it's really a
it's a walk
memory
down
lane there.
Exactly.
It's like time traveling.
Wow, yeah, 2012. Tinfoilius thread, Benjen Stark is actually Dario. Wow, that's crazy.
And again,
Sorry.
It's never too early to start preparing for Best of 2018. You see something you like, you can use the Reddit enhancement suite to tag it, and that's going to save the URL for it, and you can tag it and look through your saved res tags later to pull out anything that you wanted to nominate. Or you can also use Reddit's own built-in save feature, which is supported by a lot of the mobile apps. I use Reddit is fun, and I just save posts and comments that I like, and you can do it also from the desktop site.
Awesome.
And
Hell yes.
If you want to access your saved links and stuff, you just go to your user page and click saved.
Thank you for the tutorial.
You dummy.
I don't know. I'm just saying, I find it super useful.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Absolutely.
So where are we, Michael?
Where are we?
Where are we? Where can you find us? Who do you want to thank?
Oh, okay, yeah. As always, we want to thank George R. R. Martin for writing the Song of Ice and Fire books, but we also want to thank, of course, the community, the users, because without you guys, obviously, especially this episode, but all of our episodes just wouldn't exist. We wouldn't be here still talking about A Song of Ice and Fire, trapped in this Sisyphean hell of constantly awaiting the next book and trying to churn out new things just to keep ourselves afloat in this community. No, wait,
it's not that bad.
that got really dark.
Are you sure that you don't want to take over John's POV?
I long to take over John's POV. He would be a great moderator, and I would be a great dead person. No, we want to thank the users. We want to thank the community, because without you guys, these podcasts wouldn't exist. And of course, thanks to all the best of people who nominated, people who won awards, for especially their contributions. Without nominees, there are no awards. That's literally true. You can find Maester Monthly on Twitter at Maester Monthly. You can find us on Facebook as well, where we will be sometimes posting short clips from some of our older episodes, so keep your eyes peeled for those. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. You can find us on WordPress, maestermonthly.wordpress.com, and of course YouTube, which you should always check out, because Aaron, as mentioned, puts a ton of work into amazing and hilarious graphics for all of our episodes. Am I forgetting any thank yous or websites that we're on?
You could say, like, thank you for being with us this whole year. Or, like,
yeah.
Yeah, it's, like, technically our year-ish if we're doing the best of again.
Thanks for being our friend.
Yeah, of course. And we also want to say thank you to everyone who's listened to Maester Monthly. It's been about a year since we did the first one. The first episode was the best of 2016. And the past year has been awesome. Just getting to share our thoughts with people in this format and getting to boost some cool posts and some good ideas. And people seem to have been really enjoying it. So we're really glad to see that. So thank you all for listening, for telling us you like the podcast. It really means a lot. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, man, maybe.
Listen, be good to one another and take it easy out there, guys. And don't take any wooden nickel.
Remember the golden rule. Pour a vat of molten gold over the head of your
the brother who is disrespecting you.
Pour a bunch of molten gold.
Your best frenemy.
Is that George subverting the trope of the golden rule?
No.
Find out on a future Maester Monthly.
Find out next time. Tune in next time for more Shadow Parrots.
I've been Michael, better known as Bookshelfstud.
I've been Aaron, also known as AdmiralKird, the editor.
I've been Jen, also known as Jen Snow.
And I have been Glass Table Girl, otherwise known as Eliana. I
loved it. I don't know. Okay, go.
Are you okay, Aaron?
Yes. I'm just trying to keep myself entertained. It's a long cast.
Wow. Are you not entertained?
Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to smash the like button, and you will hear us next time on Maester Monthly.